Hello guys, so I am finally doing this video on the fae or fairies or whatever you want to call them. I don't like to call them fairies because I am talking about various different creatures or entities that belong into this same kind of group. So, excuse me if I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's been a long day and I didn't feel like making this video, but I kind of promised you guys to make this video, so I just said fuck it and I'm gonna do it and whatever. And it's already dark outside, it's nighttime, and I know that this lighting is shitty, but you know, it is what it is, and I hope that my cat won't like ruin anything. So let's just start. So I have a little bit of notes in my notebook that I put down just so I don't forget anything that I want to talk about. So basically, the fae, like, what people usually wonder is, what are they? Some people say they are angels, some people say they are demons, some people say they are, I don't know, nature spirits, some people say, you know, they are manifested forces, and all these different kind of things. So what I can tell you is only what comes from my own perspective and my own experience and my own research, and that is that there are many things and none of those things at the same time, and they are really complex creatures. And I feel that Christianity and various other religions in that context demonize many spirits and forces by simply having the need to put everything in certain boxes. And what fae creatures are is simply not, this rule can be applied to them because they're neither of those. They're like us. They're neither good or bad, they're both. They have their own will, they can do what they want, and someone might have a good experience with one sort of fairy and someone might not, because we don't get along the same way either. So what they are is basically energy vortexes. That's how you can imagine them. And they don't look like what they're depicted as in movies and, I don't know, cartoons and whatnot. Some of them do look like that, and oh, my cat is gonna come. Okay, good, he didn't smash anything. Hi. Yeah, and the thing is that they can actually change forms. They're shapeshifters. They can appear in any form they want to appear, and you can't see them unless they want to be seen and noticed. So for people like me who have a connection to them since we were little, I don't know if it's so much about having the sight, like having this gift that others don't. I don't think it's about that. I think it's more about being on some sort of a mindset or level of acceptance or openness to that kind of a energy. In theory, they are creatures that live in the astral plane as well as in the ether. So that means basically that they are like kind of, how can I explain this in English? They're like merged with the physical world, but not really here in a physical form. Basically, it is said that they can manifest in a physical form, but not necessarily. So they can be here even if they're not in a physical form. If anyone ever experienced not the astral projection, but because in the astral projection you actually project onto the astral plane, but if you ever experienced the, how do you call it, like ethereal projection, that's when you basically project your etheric body into the like ether, and you are basically in the physical space. You can see what's happening around in the real world, but you're not physically there, obviously, because you're sleeping and you're projecting. On that same kind of level, fairies exist and other creatures. So, as I said, they're neither good nor bad. You can have good experiences with them, you can have bad experiences with them. It depends a lot on your attitude, on your respect, on the way you approach them, on the way, like, how much you know about what you're doing. Because some will love one thing and the others will love another thing, and there are things that they like utterly hate, and if you do those things, well, you're obviously gonna have some issues. So for example, like if we're talking like overall some like basic stuff that they like, usually it's milk, honey, anything sweet, anything shiny. They love music. They love like excited music, like party, literally. They love parties wherever there's like people who are having a good time. And yes, they like alcohol that comes with that. So if you combine that, you get mead. So in general, they love fun. They love sparkly, like things that are full of energy. So sweets are full of energy. And they hate, on the opposite side, they hate arguments. They hate yelling. So for example, when people are having issues with poltergeists, that's not an evil spirit. It's a spirit of the place that got disrupted, that got so disrupted by something that happened in that place, that it got fed so much negative energy that it started acting out in a negative way. So when you see in the movies when they're like priests and people like trying to like banish and exorcise the spirit, that actually doesn't work. I've been there, I've done that, and it doesn't work. What works is you actually calm the spirit and you bring things into a balance. So a good, well, I guess kind of a good example of this would be the movie, I think it's called Babadook, something like that. I know that there's like this weird ass, creepy ass, malicious spirit living in the house that the kid can see, and I guess the mom as well, and they get haunted by this spirit. And in the end, I don't remember this movie very well anymore, but I know that in the end there's like, they're actually leaving some like offerings to the spirit, like in the basement or whatever. They like bring him a bowl of food or whatever, and I know that they're like kind of in a good relationship sort of thing. So it's kind of like that. So relationship is key as to any beings. So if you want to get along with somebody who is at least a little bit open to actually having a relationship with you in a good way, well, you have to be respectful and approach them in a positive way. And it really is as simple as that, in a way. But that makes it really not simple, because there is no rule book. There is no, like, you have to do this and then everything's gonna work out. Even if you do, like, leave out honey and cookies and I don't know whatnot, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will actually achieve something. And that brings me to another thing, and that's fairy rules. And what applies to our world, to our society, does not necessarily apply to them. For example, saying thank you is not something that is, I wouldn't say that it's not welcome, but it has kind of a different meaning to them. So if you do thank them for something they did for you, they will understand that as you've done enough, this is the end of our relationship, goodbye, and they won't come back. That kind of a thing. I don't know, there's like different kind of stories surrounding the fairy rules and people who have crossed to their realm and never came back, or came back like they entered the fairy circle and they suddenly met all these fairy creatures and elves who took the person to their world, and they ate their food and wore their clothes, and which you're not supposed to do. And like in the fairy world, only like a couple of hours has passed, and when they actually came back to the real world, there's been like hundreds of years has passed, and the second they stepped out of the fairy circle into the real world, they just collapsed and died. Or there are stories like about people who went to the fairy world and tasted their food, and when they came back, our food wasn't as tasty to them as it was before, and they basically starved to death or something like that. Like, there's like horrible stories, but there are beautiful stories as well. But yeah, so my experiences with the fake creatures, I've had different experiences. When I was a child, I would say I had a better connection. I was more open. The energy of children is much closer to the fae than the energy of adult people. Just because kids are not concerned with some things that we are, and they think in a different way. And yeah, when I was a kid, it was just easier. I would kind of exist with them. I don't know. It wasn't weird to me, if you know what I mean. I would see them clearly. I would see little pixies as like balls of like really intense blue lights. Things like that. And now, like, there are like, I don't know if that happens to you too, but there's like periods of time when like I feel that my sight, my third eye is like blowing open, and I can see everything and I can hear everything, and I'm just there. And I have periods of time when it's just like blocked, completely shut down, nothing's happening, Like, I'm in the desert regarding the clairvoyance thing. And yeah, I feel like it requires much more work at this point in my life. Work, like, in a way of getting myself in the proper mindset to actually work with them, to actually be able to feel them again. But you can do it. It's not, I mean, I will always say, be careful when you're working with these creatures, because they are very naughty. And their jokes might not be funny to you. That's one thing. Like, you know, when you're in a hurry and you really need your keys and you know where you've left them. You know, you're 100%. And all of a sudden, your keys are gone. And then you spend like 20 minutes looking for your keys because you can't leave the house without your keys. And you're like running late to work or whatever. And then you find them in the most random place ever. Like, I don't know, in the middle of a room that has nothing to do with you. Like in the middle of the floor. Stuff like that. You know, ridiculous shit. Or like in the drawer with the cutlery or whatever, or in the fridge, or, you know, ridiculous shit like that. Like, and it's not funny to you, but it's fucking hilarious to them. So you can see where the childishness comes into play, because a kid wouldn't understand why it's such a big deal if you're late, you know. So working with them is definitely something that you really need to think about. And if you want to include them in your ritual work or spells or whatever, I don't know if I would actually recommend that, because first of all, they're not spirits who get told around what to do. And if they want to help you out with something that you want to achieve, they will probably do it on their own if you build on that relationship with them. So I wouldn't recommend you actually working with them, allowing them in your circle. Be respectful to them, but like when you are casting a circle, keep that circle tight. Don't, you know, allow them inside, because they could play with your workings and it probably wouldn't be funny to you. But you can definitely work with them. The first thing is you have to spend time in nature. And people get the wrong impression that the fake creatures only live in the woods or in the mountains or around lakes and such things. But that's not true. They live everywhere, because nature is everywhere. The planet Earth is everywhere. And they do live in cities as well. They live in in apartments, in houses. We have spirits that are assigned to actually guarding houses and things like that. So they are everywhere. But like, one thing I would say is spend some time in nature. Spend some time away from screens and social media, just so you can get into the practice of mindfulness, of actually being present in that moment in time. And the third thing I would say is be playful. Be as playful and as childish and as fucking foolish and silly as you can, without judging yourself. And once you like get into that mindset, into that space, all of a sudden it will click, and you will know what I'm talking about. You will get that feeling, and that's the place, that's the mindset from which one you need to work when you want to work with the fake creatures. And then there's another thing, like a lot of people want to work with them, but also a lot of people that I know actually had issues with them, and they, most of the time, they weren't aware that it was the fake creatures. People thought they were haunted. People thought they had poltergeists. People thought they had like all sorts of shit. When actually they had fairies. They had, I don't know, like pissed off fairies. That's basically what they had. And as I said, the best thing you could do is to calm them. Calm them. Give some offerings, balance your shit, get your shit together, think about what's going wrong in your life and in your household, because they're usually a good indicator that something is not as it should be. Get that shit right, and if you really want them to leave, you can always use like iron, for example. They hate iron. They hate it. I don't know why, but they hate it. So you could put like iron nails around your house, things like that that are simple to hide. But I don't know, I feel like if you decide to calm them down, I feel like that's enough. So yeah. As I said, there are like some fake creatures that are more malicious than others, and it's not bad to actually be protected and use something of iron if you feel like you have a problem with that. But in general, I feel like the general protection that you should do on yourself as a witch anyway, that should be fine. So okay, so I'm rambling for 22 minutes already, and I haven't even come to the questions that you guys posted on my Instagram. So the questions, I got this question, are fairies very much present in Slovenian folklore? And how are they different from Anglo-Saxon fairies? I wouldn't, to me personally, they are not as different in a way of the feeling of the energy. There is this like slight cultural tint to them, but to the energetic body, I wouldn't say I feel as much of a difference. I feel many of like Slavic and Anglo-Saxon ones have very much in common. I wouldn't know a lot about Asian fake creatures, or I don't know, some maybe African cultures. I wouldn't know about that. But I can say that I can compare the Anglo-Saxon ones and the Slavic ones. And I think this question was from Magdalena, and she also asked me for names of the fake creatures in Slovenian. So names for dwarf is škrat, dragon is zmaj, fairy is vila. And she asked about if I can tell some of the Slovenian fake creatures that appear in myth and stuff like that. And we have a lot of like dwarfs or gnomes, things like that. Škrati, as I said before, they're like this little people who can be very naughty and helpful at the same time. Then we have the povodni mož, that's like the water man. There's actually this poem written about this povodny mož who lives in the river Ljubljanica in the main city of Slovenia, and he appeared at the city dance, and he danced with the prettiest girl in the city that was very conceited, and she was very like acting like she was the best chick in town because she was and whatever. And he actually seduced her, and they danced and they danced, and he summoned the storms and the cloud and the winds, and there was this like vortex that lifted them up as they danced, and that vortex basically moved them onto the river, and they danced on the river, and all of a sudden they disappeared beneath the water, and no one ever saw her again. So that's one of the one of the stories, for example. Also, I feel like we have a lot of dragons. We have the Ljubljanski Zmaj. We have the dragon bridge, where there are like these huge statues of dragons that are like guarding the bridge, which I feel like is very interesting, especially since it's a bridge and it's like water, and there's like this sense of a portal when I talk about bridges and water, and there's like this magnificent fake creature standing on the bridge guarding it. I don't know, I feel like it's gorgeous, and I've loved that bridge since I was a little kid. I would always ask my mom to take me to the bridge so I could see the dragons. And we also have like there's this spring, river spring. It's called Lindvern, and fuck, I know that like in German it means something about like is it like ground worm or like the worm, I don't know, it's something about dragons. And the legend says that this water spring actually erupts dragon babies out. And basically what it is, we have this fuck, I forget how to speak English. We have this species of like it's like a lizard, it's like a salamander, but it's not a salamander. We have this like little creature that is it autonomous? I don't know if that's the word, but it's from Slovenia, and it lives in the caves and in the waters, and it almost looks like an axolotl, but it's not. And we call it, basically the literal translation is human fish, because it's like an axolotl, and its skin is completely like human color. But it looks like little baby dragons. So that's why the legends were like talking about this spring of water erupting baby dragons. We also have a lot of giants, and like snakes, like fairies that would take shape of snakes, things like that. What else? We have this creature, this lady creature that is called Mora, and it's basically like it causes like you to have cramps in your stomach and shit like that, makes you feel bad and have nightmares. We have werewolves, cursed or natural. It's believed to have both, and that they are immune to aging, as everywhere else. I don't feel like that's something special. We also have like this gorski mož and gorska žena. Gorski mož is like the mountain man, and gorska žena is the mountain woman. And gorski mož, the mountain man, is like supposed to be this like where do I have it? Yeah, like this big scary strong man living in the mountains, like moving his little camp, from place to place and basically stealing cows and sheep and eating them. So exciting. And Gorska Žena, the mountain woman, is supposed to be this like super tiny but super scary woman, wild woman, living in the mountains. And she would give, like, I know that there's a story where she gifted this poor woman like a never-ending like ball of yarn, so she could make sweaters and stuff and sell it and get rich by it. And she would basically be just scary and wise. It's basically like Baba Yaga, something like that. Kind of similar, but not really. Whatever. We also have Rojenice or Sojenice, and these are basically like the three fates. You're spinning the threads of fate. There are usually 3 of them. They basically tell the future of a newborn. The tradition is like when there was a newborn child in the house, they would people would leave out food and drink for them, because they would like visit the newborn at midnight, at first midnight of their life. And it's supposedly no one could see them except beggars. I don't know why beggars, but I don't know, that's what the story says. What else? I have some notes. Oh, right. I have some stuff on Domovoi. Since I was mentioning poltergeists before and creatures that guard houses and stuff, Domovoi or Domovik is this house spirit, like this tiny human that is like all covered in like super thin, very soft hair / fur, and had like super hairy hair and beard and stuff, and it was like super skinny and tiny, and he could take shape of like different animals such as like dogs, cats, bears, stuff like that. He could even like take a shape of someone who passed away already. So basically what he did is he just assisted in the household with tiny things, and he brought luck to the household and protected the cows and the sheep and whatnot. And he would even like cause mischief to the neighbors, so that his own like house master would be, you know, more successful than the neighbors, kind of a thing. And in exchange, they would leave out offerings for Domovoi, like salted bread wrapped in white linen cloth, milk, stuff like that. They would leave it out in a yard or in the barn, because that's where he supposedly lived, or he would like sleep behind the stove. Yeah, and when a member of the household died, Domovoi was actually supposedly heard howling and crying all night. So that is kind of reminiscent of what a poltergeist is. So that's actually kind of sad. Like, there's this super sad spirit and we're like angry at him for being sad. It's kind of fucked up, right? Yeah, but on the other side, of course, if Domovoi is mistreated, he could actually kill the whole flock of cows / sheep. He would be fucking enraged and he would abandon the household, which in turn would bring super bad luck to the household. Yeah, that's it. And also the Baba Yaga / Baba Roga, who some people actually view as a goddess, but she is supposedly not a goddess. She's more of a... She fits more to this like fae creature kind of a world. And Baba Yaga lives in the forest, like old lady living in a house on chicken legs, and she flies around in her pestle and mortar, pestle and mortar, whatever. It's late. Oh yeah, and one more question. Joanna asked me, do you or how do you work with Rusalki, and how do you perceive them in terms of physical appearance and character? So Rusalki, I actually had experience with Rusalki, in sleep and awake, and they are super intense. They always feel feminine, as they supposedly are by legend as well. I never felt a Rusalki energy in a male form. And they feel super dangerous to me. And in a way that they will lure you with your weaknesses. I don't know if that makes sense, but you won't be aware when they drag you to the water, if you know what I mean. So, but at the same time, they are beautiful and they bring this divine beauty to the world. And I always find them in the most like hidden corners of woods where you would find water. And it's beautiful and magnificent. And in terms of visual, like physical appearance, I don't know. It's very difficult to determine that by the human standard. Like, it's difficult to just say they have like blonde hair and pale skin and they wear white clothes. You know, that would be the easier answer, but I don't feel like it would be fair for me to say that. It's more of a like this transparent sort of a thing that is there, but it's not, because that's their thing. Their energy is like that as well. They're there, but they're not there. It's like this elusive sort of a magical, beautiful thing that you can never really have. That sort of thing, if that makes sense. So how do I work with Rusalki? I never worked with them. Like work. I don't know what I would do with them, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot of lessons to get from them, if you can be careful enough to actually get close enough. There's a lot of lessons of element of water, obviously. There's a lot of lessons of intuition, a lot of lessons of emotion, and of just, I don't know, it's kind of, I feel at the same time it kind of brings out the heartache from the depths of your heart, and they make you feel the beauty of it at the same time. This is not making any sense, right? Whatever, yeah. I don't work with them. It's not like I go there and I'm like, hey, what's up, girls? You know, let's chill out. I got some drinks. Let's do this. I got some shit to do, you know. So, yeah. But I did, like, my sleeping experience with them. I actually heard them sing. And no one will, like, tell me that I didn't, because I did. And it was fucking beautiful. It was this fucking beautiful melody that I could not repeat for the life of me. I could not repeat the second I woke up. And I'm a musician. Like, I can play music, I can read notes, I know like music, and I could not for the life of me repeat the melody. And I know that it wasn't complicated, but it was just like enchanting. I don't know. That's the only way I can explain it. Another thing that people ask a lot is how to see them. So as I said, you won't see them if they don't want to be seen. Build on the relationship with them, and yeah, and it will happen on its own if it's meant to happen for you. I know it sounds fucking douchebaggy of me, but that's the way it is. I'm sorry. It's best if you don't have any expectations. So yeah, that's that. And this video is already 40 minutes long, so that's a joy. Whoever the fuck managed to watch this. But I love to ramble. I wanted to share some books and decks on this theme. So let's just share this one first. This one is called Fairy Legends by Croft and Crocker. And there's like super raw stories in this, and some ridiculous excuse me, and some ridiculous drawings like this. But these are really cool. These are really cool. They are like, they could be a little bit complicated to read because it's this old English, but I like it. This book is called The Book of Beasties, a Scottish bestiary of old. And it's this super cool, basically a bestiary. And it has like different, basically Scottish fake creatures described in it, as it would be written by like a person writing their like log or book of shadows and writing about the creatures they've met, things of that sort. It's super cute. I like it. I like the vibe of it. And then one of my favorite authors, Brian Froud, Good Fairies and Bad Fairies. So it's like this. There's good fairies and bad fairies. Bam! And I love the artwork of Brian. It is, if you want to get like a vibe of what fairies can look like, this, like, check out his artwork, because the way he dives into diversity of the Fae is just really, I don't know, I've never experienced something that would be so fair to the energy of the Fae. Let me see more ridiculous ones. Look, there's some boobies. Yeah, but I love them because there's no judgment and there's no, like, I don't feel like there's this thing where there's just like, I don't know, certain type of bodies or whatever. It's super not of this world, if that makes sense. So check it out. Another book by him is How to See Fairies. Haha. Isn't this like an irony? But I got this book because it has all these little like things that open up. I think there's like, yeah, it says rules, and then you open it up and it's like, ha ha ha, that's your first lesson, la 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 la. Like, there's no rules to seeing fairies. And it says, look at this picture, what do you see? A pointy-eared person or someone like me? Yeah, it's like, it's a playful, childish book in a way, but also it makes you think in a different way, in a more appropriate way to actually experiencing them. I am sorry that this, like, it's super shiny. And I think this book actually has a place where you can, like, yeah, you can use this to leave offerings for them. It says, here is a place to leave a gift for us, if you like, of course. Maybe a message, a button, a leaf, perhaps a piece of fairy cake. This way you'll call us and we will hear. If you wait for us, we will come to you. And it opens up like this. And you can, like, set it down and leave an offering. Isn't this fucking beautiful, guys? Look at this. Oh, yeah. I love it. Yeah, what's... Oh, yeah. I don't know. I love this. It's super nice. And another book. I have not read this book yet. It's A Treasury of Irish Fairy and Folk Tales. I love any fairy tales and folk tales. Look at this gilded beauty. And it's basically full of fairy tales where different kinds of fae creatures are in, and it's just beautiful. It's one of those books that you have on your shelf and you just like, oh. I don't know, if you are a lover of fairy tales, you know what I mean. Okay, and another book is the Fairy Bible. This book is good in terms of kind of broadening your sense of all kinds of fairies that, like, appear in different kind of cultures, and these are divided into, I think they're like divided into the elements. So you have the element of fire, the element of water, air, and for each element you have little rituals and things you could do. Oh, look at all those mermaids. And things you can do to connect easier with that type of the fae. And then when it comes to decks, the Hidden Realms Tarot, or the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Yeah, this is one of the decks that I got as a gift from my hubby. It comes with a super nice book. And this is a book that I actually really enjoyed reading because it puts you into that mindset. And the cards. This is the back. I've showed this deck in my autumn decks video. And basically almost all the cards have a fae creature person that is worth taking time to do some path working with. So you can really experience their world. Yeah, and I think that, yeah, some of them have like animals, but most of them have a person. And they are super enchanting and beautiful and all that good stuff. Then I have magical, I think it's like magical messages of the fairies or something like that. It's a deck from Doreen Virtue. It's one of the first decks that I ever got. And I got it just because I loved fairies since forever. But this deck is, I wouldn't say useless when it comes to working with fairies, because if this works for you, it works for you. But when it comes to the messages of the cards, it's just super shallow. It has nothing to do with fairies. To me, at least. But some of the images are super cute. This is my favorite one. It says sun, and this is like super cute. I don't know, I love it. Yeah, some of the artwork is like super cute. But I wouldn't recommend this deck if you are actually looking for a deck that will help you work with those energies better. So a deck that I would recommend is the Fairies Oracle, and I've talked about this in my autumn decks, and this is also by Brian Froud. The book is gold when it comes to explaining fairies, and the cards are also just magnificent. This is the back, and here is some of the cards. I think he is one of the rare people who actually has a solid relationship with the fey creatures and who really understands them. And oh yeah, and there's a blank card that says Fairy Guide, and you can just leave it blank, or you can like illustrate or paint or whatever you want your own personal fairy guide on there. Some naked books. But yeah, I really recommend you guys get this deck if you want to work with the fae. So that's that. It's been 51 minutes and it's been too much. So I'm sorry you guys for making such a super long video, but you know, what can you do? Right? Yes. Super cute. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna go take a shower and just chill for the night, and that's that. Thanks for watching. Woo! Yeah, my phone just flew. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry for making such a super long video. I'm sorry if I was rambling, and I hope you learned something from this video. Yeah, so that's that. Subscribe if you want to see more of my videos to come. Leave a comment. I would love to hear from you guys. What do you think about this? What are your experiences? If you have any more questions. And yeah, that's that. Much love, you guys. Bye.